Throughout the history of the NHL, we've seen some great players leave the game due to illness, injuries, and/or father time just caught up to them. But with hard work, tenacity, and a little bit of luck on their side, we've seen some unbelievable comebacks in the NHL. So get ready to channel your inner Rocky Balboa, crack some raw eggs into a cup and chug it down, because we're about to get real motivational and inspiring. Here are the greatest NHL comebacks of all time. Tim Horton. In 1955, Tim Horton was on the receiving end of a huge hit from Rangers D-man Bill Gadsby. The collision put Horton in the hospital with a broken leg and a broken jaw. Horton missed half of the following season because of the hit, and many were worried that he'd never get back to that all-star form he displayed throughout his career. But on the contrary, when he returned, Tim only got better and helped lead the Leafs to 4 more Stanley Cups before retiring at the age of 44. Bobby Baun. This is definitely a defining moment in Toronto Maple Leafs history. In 1964, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, the Toronto Maple Leafs were facing off against the Detroit Red Wings. Leafs defenseman Bob Baun blocked a slap shot, taking it to the ankle late in the third period. Baun was carried off on the ice on a stretcher and was presumed to be out for the remainder of the series. That game was going into overtime, and during intermission, instead of having his ankle x-rayed, Baun insisted to have his ankle frozen. Once overtime started, Baun miraculously made his way out onto the ice. The Leafs were down in the series 3-2 and needed to win this to keep their cup dreams alive. At the 1-minute 42 mark of overtime, Baun took a shot from the point and beat the Red Wings goalie, keeping the Leafs in the series and forcing a Game 7 where the Leafs ended up taking the win and won the Stanley Cup. Jacques Plante. Over the course of 837 regular season games and 112 postseason appearances, goalie Jacques Plante saw thousands of shots come his way, and in more than 1/3 of those games, he wasn't even wearing a goalie mask. On November 1st, 1959, Plante took a hard shot to the face and was forced to leave the game to be treated. He got stitched up, and when he returned to the game, he was sporting his goalie mask that he only ever wore while in practice. His coach at the time was skeptical of him wearing the mask and tried to advise against it, but Jacques continued to wear it anyway and actually took the Habs on an 18-game winning streak. Well, what broke that winning streak, you ask? Well, Jacques decided to not wear the mask and the Canadiens lost. Throughout his career, Plante won 7 Vezinas, 3 of those coming after he decided to wear the goalie mask for every other game he played during his career. Gary Roberts. Roberts made his NHL debut with Calgary in 1986. He scored 257 goals and 505 points in 585 games played through the first 10 years of his career. Roberts was known for his physicality, digging pucks out of the corners and crashing the net, sacrificing his body to rack up the points. Well, that style of play led to some dangerous territory in the 91-92 season. In November against the Toronto Maple Leafs, Leafs defenseman Bob Rouse hit Roberts headfirst into the boards from behind as he was heading to the bench for a line change. Roberts left the ice on a stretcher, but only ended up missing 1 game with a sore neck. That sounds pretty lucky to me. Well, fast forward to 1994, Roberts suffered several more neck injuries, and he got to the point where in the postseason against the Vancouver Canucks, the man had to play in a neck brace. The Flames lost that series to the Canucks, and Roberts took that summer off to recover. In February of 1995, the neck injury put a halt to Roberts' career as he underwent 2 surgeries. After the second surgery, Roberts made his comeback mid-season and scored 42 points in 35 games, helping the Flames reach the playoffs. But the pain was still there for Roberts as the injury limited his range of motion. He had to sit out for the entire playoffs that season. Roberts thought he was done and was almost ready to call it a career, but thankfully he didn't. For 18 months, he put himself through some serious rehab and reinvented himself, adding on 25 pounds of muscle through weight training and stabilization exercises, and finally got rid of that neck pain. Although the Flames were not willing to take Roberts back, they worked out a deal with the Hurricanes, and Roberts went on to play 11 more seasons in the NHL. Saku Koivu. Diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2001, it was expected that Koivu would miss the entire 2001-2002 season. That was not the case. On April 9th, 2002, the Canadiens captain made his return and was welcomed by an emotional 8-minute standing ovation. To put the cherry on top, continuing on that year, he helped the Habs upset the Boston Bruins in the playoffs, and in the following year, he had one of his most productive seasons of his career, notching 71 points. In fact, in his next 5 seasons with Montreal, he provided the team with at least 50 points a season. Koivu finished his time with the Habs as the 10th all-time leading scorer. Mario Lemieux, putting not only his career in jeopardy, but his life in jeopardy while still in his prime, Mario Lemieux shocked the hockey world when he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1993. After enduring 22 radiation treatments, he miraculously returned later that season and played some of his best hockey, finishing as the NHL's top scorer with 160 points in 60 games. He even marked consecutive games of 4 goals and won the Art Ross Trophy not only in 1993, but he did it again in 1996 and 97. This is absolutely insane, and the NHL was more than happy to have him back in the game. But unfortunately, a recurring back problem forced Lemieux to retire in 1997, so we had to say goodbye to one of the best to ever touch the ice. And then he made a surprising, successful comeback in the year 2000 and played for another 5 years in the league. In his first game back, just 33 seconds into the game, Lemieux set up Jaromir Jagr for a goal and finished the game with a goal and 2 assists in a 5-0 win. Gordie Howe, aka Mr. Hockey. 4 years into his career, Gordie Howe was making a huge impact on the league, but in the 1950 playoffs, he suffered a scary head injury that nearly ended what ended up being one of the most legendary NHL careers we will ever see. Gordie suffered a fractured skull after missing a check landing headfirst into the boards. Gordie underwent emergency surgery but returned to the ice the following season and of course led the league in scoring during the 1950-51 season with 86 points. He also went on to win the Art Ross Trophy the next 4 seasons in a row. Howe retired in 1971, but he's number 1 on our list for a reason. He had another comeback just 2 years later to join his sons Mark and Marty on the Houston Aeros of the WHA. Although in his mid-40s, he scored over 100 points twice in 6 years and was named the most valuable player in 1974. Gordie made a brief return to the NHL in the 79-80 season, playing 1 season with the Hartford Whalers, then retired at the age of 52. He is the only player to have competed in the NHL in 5 different decades. Thanks for watching our videos. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.